All Elite Wrestling has had its ups and downs since its inception a few years ago. Whether you're a fan of the product or not, you have to acknowledge that they have incredible foresight. They have the ability to navigate criticism, good or bad, better than most wrestling promotions. Even with this praise, we still need to understand that AEW is far from perfect, and it's not without its flaws. Awesome Kong, she's a wrestler who deserves a ton of credit where the North American women's wrestling scene is today. During the Divas era in the WWE, Awesome Kong was a part of the TNA Knockouts division. She was out there putting on matches that women were not known for. She not only was one of the best women in the company, but she had a vital part in making TNA successful. Awesome Kong had a rivalry with Gail Kim that still stands the test of time today, and that program really put both wrestlers on another level. During her time in TNA, she was a 2-time Knockouts champion and a 1-time Knockouts Tag Team champion. And as all things change, well, so did TNA Wrestling. You see, TNA Wrestling was struggling financially due to the poor management and bad decisions, and a lot of the talent that they had, they simply could not afford to pay the money that they were worth. Because of the monetary issues along with the changing management, Awesome Kong decided to ask for a release from TNA in 2010. Following this, she would end up in the WWE under the name Kharma. However, it was very short-lived. Kong had gotten pregnant and had to take time off of pro wrestling. WWE had a time frame that they wanted her to return, and when that time came, she simply was not ready. She did make a brief appearance in the 2012 Royal Rumble, however, she was released shortly after that. She then went to Japan after she got in shape and worked the independent scene. She then found herself back in TNA, as it was now known as Impact Wrestling, in 2015. She would be around until a backstage altercation with Rebby Hardy got her released from Impact in 2016. Awesome Kong would find her way to All Elite Wrestling. At AEW Double or Nothing in 2019, she found her way into a match between Dr. Britt Baker, Kylie Rae, and Nyla Rose. Brandy Rhodes, who was in charge of the women's division, would insert Kong into the match, making it a 4-way.
I don't want a great match. I want a match that is awesome.
Oh my God.
You gotta be kidding.
Oh my God.
This crowd is going crazy.
Kong didn't win the match, but this would set up a partnership between Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong. Kong would then accompany Brandy to the ring in a match versus Allie at Fight for the Fallen 2019, where Brandy Rhodes was victorious. There would be an altercation after the match with a stare-off between Aja Kong and Awesome Kong, but that didn't really lead to anything. AEW then started airing promos with Awesome Kong and Brandy Rhodes, and eventually, a faction was formed. During the Full Gear pre-show, after Britt Baker defeated Bea Priestley, Kong and Rhodes made their way down to the ring, assaulting Priestley, cutting off a lock of her hair with a huge knife. Kong would then take that and attach it to her gear, where she would wear as a trophy of sorts. Soon after, the Nightmare Collective was formed with Brandy Rhodes, Awesome Kong, Dr. Luther, and Mel. Mel was a fan who showed up ringside, wanting to pledge her allegiance to the Nightmare Collective. Kong cut her hair with a knife, and Brandy Rhodes proceeded to shave her head. Dr. Luther joined the group shortly after that. At this point, the group had no momentum, and most people soured on the idea of the Nightmare Collective. To make matters worse, in February of 2020, Awesome Kong had to step away from wrestling so she could take part in the filming of the Netflix series Glow. She did a great job on that show, and if you haven't watched Glow yet, I suggest you check it out on Netflix. Following the filming of Glow, Kong had not returned to the company, and in June 2021, AEW decided to not renew her contract, and Awesome Kong was released. On August 28, 2021, she announced her retirement from in-ring competition at NWA Empower, thus concluding her 20-year wrestling career. She was also inducted into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. Awesome Kong's time in TNA Wrestling was legendary, and it deserves to be remembered. If you haven't seen any of her matches with Gail Kim, I urge you to go out of your way and check them out. However, when Awesome Kong came to AEW, she had already been wrestling for almost 20 years, and all those matches, well, they took a toll on her body. Then, there's the Nightmare Collective. Just the mere mention of that name gives many fans a bad taste in their mouth. From the get-go, this started off bad. Brandy Rhodes loves pro wrestling, and she strives to get better at her craft. Even so, she still gets major hate from certain segments of the audience because she's Mrs. Cody Rhodes. Many people believe that she didn't earn her spot, she is only there because her husband is an EVP. Many think that she's taking up time from other talented wrestlers. I, however, don't. I understand how some people view her, but she's a vital part of the day-to-day in AEW, and she could bring a lot to AEW as an on-screen wrestler. As long as they find the right role for her, it can work. The Nightmare Collective, however, that wasn't the right role. When Awesome Kong came in, many of the AEW fans remember her time in TNA Wrestling and wanted to see her destroy people and put on fantastic matches. Instead of that, we got to see her cutting people's hair. What started out awesome as a trophy slowly changed for the worse. When Mel joined the group by volunteering to get her head shaved, it shifted. When it started, it seemed to symbolize Kong being a hunter, and the hair she cut being her trophies, like it was a deer's head on a wall. But having the hair cutting being a sign of Pledge of Allegiance makes it kind of unoriginal, and we've seen that angle before in pro wrestling. Brandy Rhodes is not only the wife of Cody Rhodes, but at the time she was managing him, and Cody Rhodes was one of the founding figures of AEW and one of its biggest baby faces at the time. Most of the fans saw the pairing of Cody Rhodes and Brandy a lot more interesting than that of the Nightmare Collective. The persona that Brandy was playing in the Nightmare Collective didn't suit her personality well, and it fell flat on its face. AEW then listened to the negative feedback, and they pulled the plug on the entire Nightmare Collective. This is something that a lot of wrestling promotions are afraid to do, but AEW always tries to listen to their audience. Shortly after, Kong went on to film Glow, and she never returned to All Elite Wrestling. She was then released in 2021. The long career took a toll on her body, and she decided that it was time to call it quits, and she retired. Even with the blunder of the Nightmare Collective, we should never forget the awesome career that Kong had before she stepped foot in All Elite Wrestling.